All right. Good morning, everyone. I see some familiar faces. I see some that I do not recognize, which is equally exciting. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Morgan Cox. I am the Next Generation Scholar Coordinator in Caroline County, and I am one of the co-hosts for today's session, the college essay writing session. So I wanted to take just a moment to introduce myself. I went to Randolph-Macon College is where I got my undergrad degree, and I also had to write an essay for my admittance for the college. So I am familiar with this process. It was something that I was very excited about when we decided to offer this virtual workshop for you guys this year, because writing is a passion of mine, and it was really fun to be able to introduce myself to my future college through this process. So today we are going to talk all about what the college essay is, how to write it, what admissions counselors are looking for, and it'll be a lot of fun. But before I get started, we need to introduce our other co-host for today.
Hi, I am Taliba Chikwandu. I am an English teacher at Cambridge South Dorchester High School, and I can't say I remember writing my college essay. Let's just say it was a long time ago, but I do remember writing one for grad school. And the bottom line is the idea is the same. You want to put yourself in your best light. You want to show why you have something that's unique, that's valuable to the college, and convince them that they want you more than anyone else.
Awesome. So before we jump into our content for today, I just want to share a couple more reminders. If you are able to have your video camera on so we can see your face, that would be phenomenal, depending on what device you're using. Also, if you guys could make sure you're muted. That way, if there's any other background noise, that we don't get any feedback. That way, when you guys go to watch this recording, you can hear it pretty clearly. If you have any questions, we will have a question section at the end of the first hour of this workshop. But if you don't want to wait until then, if you have a question that you really want to make sure you ask, but you don't want to forget it, please feel free to use our chat function. You can access that. It's at the bottom. If you look at the bottom bar at the bottom of your screen, there's a little text box. If you click on that, it'll take you to our chat box, which should be on the right hand of your screen. And you can type in your question there, and we will come back to it later in the workshop. So before we dive into the content, a lot of you may know this. I hope a lot of you know this. Today's workshop is not just 1 hour. It is virtually an entire day workshop. But there is going to be a lot of off-screen time, because what our goal of today is to not only introduce you to what the college essay is, but also we want you guys to try to write your own. Especially for those of you who are rising seniors, this is your deadlines are getting closer, and we want to make sure that you guys have the opportunity to have an essay done. Okay, so the first hour of today is going to be from now until 11 o'clock. We are going to be talking all about the essay, what it includes, tips and tricks, what people are looking for, and hopefully helping guide you guys through that. Then at 11 o'clock, you guys will have from 11 until 1-ish to work on your essay. For those of you who have started one, that's fantastic. If you haven't, that's okay. We are going to share with you some prompts that you can use to start working on your essay. Even if you are not a rising senior, this is still a really good opportunity to have an essay done. You can have one, at least a draft, completed by the end of today, which will be such an amazing feeling. At 1 o'clock, you guys are invited back on. It doesn't have to be right at 1. It can be at 1. It can be at 1:30. It can be at 2 o'clock. But from 1 until 3, we are going to be here back at the same link. And we are going to be helping you guys edit your essays, okay? If you want to have another set of eyes read them, which we highly encourage, you will be able to do that, okay? So I wanted to make sure you guys are aware of that before we head into today's information, okay? Alrighty, so let us get started. While we do that, why don't you guys write in the chat section? I want to know what grade you guys are going into. I know that you guys put that information in when you registered for today, but just for those of us on the call, you guys can see what ages you guys are, so you know what kind of people you're surrounded by. Okay. So,
Go ahead and just watch.
all right, got some 12th graders. It's exciting. Awesome. Got some juniors. It's never too early to start this process. Good stuff. So 16th grade. So for those of you who see Sue on your screens, Sue, go ahead and wave. Okay. She is Maryland Business Roundtable intern for the summer. So she is a current junior, senior?
I'm senior.
Senior, okay. At Towson or at UMBC.
Towson.
Oh, Towson. You're wearing a Towson shirt. I don't know why I said that. But she is a communications major, so she is going to be helping us this afternoon with some editing. So she has gone through this process more recently than I have. So she is going to be a huge help to us. So that's why she is here, if you see her. Awesome. So we have a lot of rising seniors. We also have a good chunk of 11th graders on here too. That's awesome. You guys are going to be so far ahead of the game. It's amazing. So some of you may be sitting here being like, okay, I signed up for this college essay writing workshop, but I have no idea what that is. I just know I need to do it. So let's go ahead and dive into a little bit of our content this morning. So what is the college essay? Okay. So the college essay, it's a well-written admissions essay. It's what you submit with your application, and it provides insight into like your personality, things you value, and different goals that you have. Okay. Your application is, when you go to apply, a lot of it's going to be the things that you guys already know, like your GPA, what grades you got, where you live, your personal information, things like that. However, you can't really get to know someone just based on numbers like that. So this is your chance to introduce yourself to the admissions counselors, what kind of personality you're going to be bringing to campus, okay? That's something that the colleges want to see. They want to have students come to their campus that bring some sort of value. Having good grades is fantastic, but it's not enough. You need to be able to have some sort of personality to share. And we all obviously have our own personalities, and the colleges want to know what kind of person you are, because a lot of colleges consider their base to be a family. So they want to add people that are going to help support and grow their college and their university even bigger and stronger.
It's not really a paper. You're not writing a 10-page paper. It's usually very short, 1 to 2 pages. But it is a chance to show what's unique about you, what sets you apart, what makes you you, and what drives you. And so that people can see what drives you in a way that'll say, yeah, I can see how they can achieve in this environment, and I can see how they fit in and be successful in this environment. So remember, you're not writing something really, really long, but you are also getting a chance to show that you have this skill to write and express yourself in writing.
Absolutely. And like I said, admissions counselors want to see what makes you unique. And that's, I think, a really important takeaway, and something to think about for today. They want to hear about your unique experiences and what sets you apart from everybody else. They don't want, 400 of the same type of student to be on their campus. They want good students on their campus, but they want each thing that you guys bring that's different from somebody else. Okay. This is your opportunity to do that. And this isn't, it's not like a huge, it's not like a 10-page essay, right? So this is something free. It's not long. It's maybe 2 pages or so. Just a brief opportunity for you to introduce yourselves and think about it. You may have a lot to say about yourself. You guys may have experienced a lot of things in your life. However, especially if you're looking at a bigger college, having a 10-page college essay, while it still may be read, no admissions counselor is going to want to read that because they have hundreds and hundreds to go through. So make sure it's concise as well. Okay. Do you have anything else to add about what the essay is?
No, I think we covered mostly what it is. Yeah.
Okay. So I want you guys to take a moment and reflect on that. I know a lot of you guys know what the college essay is, but why do you think is an important piece of your college application? You guys can drop those comments in the chat box.
Yeah. Why do you think your college essay is an important piece?
Okay, so after you drop that in the comments, that way you guys can come back and look at that later. Again, why is the college essay an important part of your college application? That's what we're thinking about here. We just want to take a section. At the end of every section, we're going to give you guys a time to reflect, so you guys have a little bit of time to absorb what's happening and what we're talking about, because I know that there's a lot of information coming at you. So you guys will be able to go back through this. Let's see. Michaela has said it gives a personal aspect to an impersonal application. Oh, I love that. That's such a good way to say that. It adds more depth to your paper application. Absolutely. Kimira, I'm sorry if I said that wrong. Let's see. So you can stand out more than anybody else that's applying to college. Absolutely. You want to make sure that, like I said, they're going to have hundreds of applications come through. We want to make sure that yours stands out. Let's see. Daisy said to get to know your future goals for yourself, and it gives them the opportunity to see who you are. Absolutely. Courtney said, my college essay will show that I can become an asset to the college, 100%. And this is something to consider too. A lot, especially with everything that's been going on in the past 6 months in terms of COVID and what your college experience might be, or even just applying to college. You guys know that a lot of college campuses have not opened back up yet. Now that probably will change in the next couple of weeks as the fall semesters for college students begin to start. But it also might mean that you guys have to do your tours a little differently than people have done in the past. So this is a really good opportunity. If you don't get a chance to go on campus before you submit your application, this is a good opportunity for those admissions counselors to really get to know you. So I love those comments that you guys shared. Feel free to keep adding stuff in there. But we are going to move on to probably my favorite part of this conversation today, and it's what admissions counselors are looking for in your essay. We've talked to a ton of different admissions counselors. They've given us great feedback on what they're looking for, because remember, those individuals are the ones who are going to be reading your essays. They're the ones who are going to be making decisions about your application. So it is important to know what they want versus what we want to share, right? So one of the biggest things that admissions counselors have said is that they want to learn something from your essay that they do not already know about you. So in other words, they want to know something that isn't already in your application. Okay. So if, for example, you in your application, you say that you are on a sports team at your high school. Okay. You have that in like your resume part of your application. That's great. They now know you're a tennis player, or an athlete, or a football player, or a softball player, whatever the case may be. Okay. But they don't want to read an essay about your experience as a college or a high school athlete. Okay. If you do that, you want to make sure that you include more about your personality or character traits than just about your experience as an athlete, because they know you're an athlete based on other things that you included in your application. So again, this is an opportunity to share something about, maybe you can share about your experience. For example, I played tennis in high school. So I wouldn't write my essay about why I play tennis. I could include in my essay, however, about something I had to overcome when I played tennis, whether it was, I could say that I was a captain, a tennis captain like when I was a sophomore, which doesn't typically happen. And I could talk about why a struggle maybe I had through my sport, and how that made me a stronger person. But again, it comes back and talks about me. It doesn't talk about that sport. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So you want to include something that they don't already know. So if you have opportunity to write about something that has nothing to do with school, I would highly suggest that, because that's something they're probably not going to know.
I think that also one of the things they say they're looking for is a diversity of experiences. That doesn't necessarily mean that you've done something so unique and different, but if you have, that's good also. But it also means how what you have done has shaped how you see the world. Morgan talked about playing tennis. I didn't play tennis. Yeah, whole nother story. But I ran track, and being on the track team opened up. I ran a relay that we made it to the States, and being on that relay team opened up team sports in a way that it hadn't been before. Even though I played basketball, even though I'd been in the band, being on that 4-person relay team and really depending and understanding and being able to understand it. No, we weren't all interchangeable, but we were all important. All of those things changed my view of how you work as a team, which, as you know, if you have now group projects are all the thing, that was my first major group project. So when I went into school, I was able to understand, you know what, everyone has a role and we don't all have the same, but if we don't all do our job, we can't make it. So this diversity of experiences thing, how you viewed the thing that happened to you. I'm certainly not the only person who's ever been on a relay team, but how I saw it and what it did for me would lend something to an essay. So if you were on a team, or if you were, again, not about the sport, if you were in the band, if you did a group project in art class or in English, any of those things, not that your experience is odd or different or so different that no one's ever had it before, but how your experience that was like someone else's really made a difference in how you see the world and what that would mean when you come onto their campus. That's another thing that's very important for college admissions officers to see.
Absolutely. You can talk about if you guys have volunteered your time somewhere. I know having, you guys had to complete a certain number of service learning hours. If you had some sort of crazy experience from that, that would be something to include. Of course, they could see that on your application, but again, being able, some maybe like a growth that you had through participating in that. They want to see how you're going to make the college and university better. I know I hinted at that earlier. So sharing experiences that maybe talk about, you can talk about why you would be a good candidate for that college. You could talk about why you want to go to the college, and we'll show you examples of the questions in just a moment. However, you want to make sure that when you actually answer the question. So whatever the question is asking, make sure you come back to that through your essay, which I know will make more sense in a minute when we show you the essay questions. But show the university how you're going to add something to their campus. Okay. It's easy to do that when you're face to face with someone, maybe in your tour of campus, or when you're have an interview with an admissions counselor. But having this in your essay, a lot of people will be able to see it. And again, they will be able to get a good grasp of your personality, especially if you're able to share maybe what kind of initiative you have, if you are a strong person, or if you've gone through some type of experience in your life that makes you a stronger person. Now, you might think, okay, well, I've had a lot of experiences that are unique, or you might even think that you have a lot of experiences that aren't unique. But the matter of the fact is, we all have experienced different things in our life. We've all experienced coronavirus, for example. We have all been out of school for 4 months, right? Each of us have a different experience throughout this, though, okay? So that is an idea of something that you could potentially write about. The other thing I wanted to share with you guys, I learned this from an admissions counselor at Washington College, which is up in Chestertown, for those of you who don't know where that college is. And they called it the name test, okay? So this is a really good way to see if you have that unique experience. If you write your essay and can trade your paper with a friend, and they can write their name on it because they had the exact same type of experience as you, where you guys could both use the same essay, that means your experience is not unique enough, okay? So you want to share something that is a unique experience to you. If you share something that is not unique, or that many people might have experienced, then that's going to make your essay kind of more hidden amongst all of the other essays that the admissions counselors will be reading. So make sure it's a unique enough experience. It could be, like I said, an experience that a lot of people have gone through, but if you're able to create your essay in a way that shares that, how the experience was so unique to you, and how maybe it changed you, that's another really great way to make your essay stand out. All right, so do you guys have any questions this far about what admissions counselors are looking for? If you do have a question, go ahead, you can unmute and ask it.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So, how do you showcase your achievements proudly without unwittingly making yourself out to seem self-centered?
That is a good question. Remember, I would say I can identify with that. I do not like to be like the center of attention in that way. So you can talk about your experiences without being, don't worry about feeling like you are only talking about yourself. You want to make yourself look good. This is one time in your life that you will want to brag on yourself. You can craft it in a way. I mean, you don't need to write and say, hi, I am so-and-so, and I am the best, and you can't get better than me, because, nobody wants to read that. But if you explain through your experience, like, I've had this happen to me, or I achieved this, and because of that, I am a better person, or whatever the case may be, that is a way you can do that.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, sorry to interject, I would also talk about how it benefited you personally as well as your community. So, for example, in my college essay, I talked about how I was a music student conductor and I created programs in our school. And I didn't say like, oh, I did this because blah, blah, blah. I talked about how a lot of our kids didn't have breakfast in the morning. So I helped establish like a breakfast club where you bring in like donations and you can eat in the choir room. So talk about how it betters you as a person, because that's what colleges really do want to hear, but also add in that element of community, because if you think about it, as college, you're applying to be a part of a community. So that's also very important to them.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sue. That was great.
Yeah.
Great input. Does anybody else have any questions related to what admissions counselors might be looking for in your essay?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead.
Good.
You were talking about how admissions offices want to know how you will be part of a community. If you have like a strong story to tell that's not the same as other people, how can you tie all of that in?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Is it
So what I would ask you is, who's your target audience? So again, referring back to myself. So for example, Towson has a very diverse student body. And as myself, I kind of fit into that category. Sorry, I'm trying to remember. Your question was, repeat your question one more time. I'm sorry, I'm blanking.
If you have a strong story to tell, and that's different from other people, how can you tie that strong story and the experiences you had to show the admission officers how you will be a change in their community?
Yeah, definitely relate your personal experiences back to yourself and a lot of your strengths. So if you come from, say, a very diverse background, you can talk about how you're very open-minded, you love like new experiences, and that you might be a positive change in that community because you're very well equipped to adapt to different changes. You know, things like that. You want to relay your background to your strengths.
Also, and this will become more clear when we actually look at the questions like that the Common App has for this year, you're going to try to match the thing you think is important to say about yourself to the questions that are also going to be available. So there may be a question that speaks directly to what you want to share and that gives you the opening to say it in any way that feels most comfortable to you. And then there may be others that'll let you say it, but you may have to fashion it in a way that makes sense. Did that help you?
Yes.
Yeah, so a lot of this, you're of course going to want to make any experience you have tie back into the question that it's asking. And like we said, we'll talk about the questions more in the next section. But just keep in mind that that is like the bulk of what you want. You want of course, to answer the question, but you want to be sharing about some experience you've had in your essay. Okay. All right, if there are no more questions, we are going to do a little activity before we move into debunking the questions. So we're going to drop a link here in the comments to a website called Padlet. It's basically like an online bulletin board. If you guys could click on that link, we are going to make a little bulletin board, and I want you guys to make a post about what your biggest takeaway from what the admissions counselors are looking for in your essays, and how will it impact like how you craft your essay. Okay, so if you go to this link, the site will come up. It looks like a cork board when you get there. And then if you press the little plus sign down in the bottom right hand corner, that will help create your own little sticky note. Okay, so go ahead and we'll give you just a minute or two to answer those questions. That question again is going to be at the top of the Padlet page. So it is, what is your biggest takeaway from what admissions counselors are looking for in your college essay, and how will that impact crafting your own essay?
Look at all these friends.
And later today, I am going to screenshot and take a picture of this, and I will include that in the email I send you guys later today or tomorrow about this workshop with all the information in it. Good stuff. All right, so you guys can, as you finish wrapping up your little sticky note on Padlet, feel free to read through everybody else's. Again, we'll send you an image of this when it's completed, probably later today, if not today, tomorrow. But this is a good place for you guys to go back and refer to this when you are writing your essay, to think about what admissions counselors are looking for. It can help direct you in answering the question, and of course, it will include some of the tips and tricks that we'll talk about a little bit later. Okay. All right. So next, we are talking about debunking the question. Before we do that, I am going to show you guys what the school year of 2020-2021 college applications common app questions are. So for those of you who don't know, when you go to apply to college, you can apply one of two ways depending on your school's preference. Okay. There is the Common App, which is an application that is used across the board. A lot of, especially bigger schools, use the Common App, which will make it easier for you to apply to college through that. Some smaller schools do use a different application, which means their questions may be different. However, with the Common App, the essay questions will be the same. There's, I believe, 7 of them that you can choose from. Okay, so for the sake, I looked at the schools a lot of you guys are applying for. A lot of you are interested in the University of Maryland, Towson. I think we had a couple UMBC, Salisbury. All of those schools use Common App. So we are going to share with you 7 of the Common App questions for this coming application cycle. So if you are a rising senior, these are the questions that will be included on the Common App this coming fall. Okay, so give me 1 second and I'm going to share my screen with you guys so you can see them. All right, see if I can pull this up. Okay, can you guys see that?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Okay, so if you guys want to take a minute and you want to read through these Common App questions, they are what they are going to be using for Common App this year. We are going to talk about them in just a minute and break them down. And these are questions you guys are able to use for any app or any college you apply to that uses Common App. Okay. You can find that information by going to your college's website under application and admissions. A lot of that information will be shared there. So that is another really great resource, and I would definitely encourage you guys to look at that before you do apply to college and apply and write your essays, because you want to make sure you're answering the question that they're asking. But for the sake of today, and because a lot of colleges do use the Common App, we are going to be referring to these questions. So there are 7 of them, as you can see. They are a lot, they're kind of like broad questions. So Catherine, this might help answer your question that you had a little bit earlier. So if you have something specific that you want to write about, you can pick which question will answer that and can apply to that, if that makes sense. Okay, so we are going to talk a little bit more now about how we're going to take these 7 questions and pick which question we want to answer and what we want to, and how we can kind of break these questions down so we really understand how to fully answer these questions. Okay. All right. So I don't know, do we want to do, we'll do a couple of tips and tricks first, and then we have a video to show you that will walk you through how to use a organizer that we're going to share with you guys in a couple of minutes. Okay. So the first thing I have is how to get started. And the biggest thing I want to say is take a deep breath, because I know the college essay sounds super overwhelming and kind of intimidating, but honestly, it's just a way to share information about yourself. And that's what's most important. Okay. I did mention this, but again, you want to look into which application you are using. The Common App uses new questions each year. So for those of you who are rising juniors, the questions will be different for your application cycle. But it is important, but this is a good chance to practice what an essay would look like. And some schools do ask their own questions depending on what they want to know about you. Okay. Some schools even have questions like, why do you want to go here? And then you get to write about that. Yeah, you want to write down a couple of arguments, and we're going to talk about this in a second, and start listing as much information as you can about those topics. Okay. You can go through and pick what arguments that you have in your essay, just like if you were writing kind of like a persuasive essay in high school. Pick what's going to be strongest, because obviously the stronger your argument is, or the stronger the point you want to make is, the stronger your essay is going to be. Okay. The other thing you want to do is you just want to start writing, because sometimes you're waiting and you're trying to get all of your thoughts organized. Sometimes those thoughts just come when you put pen to paper. So keep that in mind. Don't overthink this. I know it's easy to. I know it's kind of a big looming task that you've heard about for years and years and years, and now it's here. But just make sure you just get started. We want a draft, and then we can go and, of course, revise that and make it easier and edit it and improve what's happening in the essay. Okay. And then the last point I wanted to share with you guys before we talk about debunking the question even more is, don't forget to brainstorm. Being able to brainstorm before you start writing is going to help the process. But again, some people work differently. Some people, I know personally, I can brainstorm something, but if I just start writing something, it's probably going to come out and make a lot more sense than just trying to organize it. Okay. All right. So we have a video to show you guys about how to use the graphic organizer to write your essay. Okay. So we are going to pull that up. I actually don't, do you want to pull that up on yours and share your screen? We can try. Otherwise, we'll do it on mine. And then I'm going to email you guys the link to, or an actual graphic organizer that you guys can use this afternoon. So that will be coming through your email in just a couple of minutes. Okay. Is it able to come up? make sure you're unmuted.
Because I'm like, all right, so we can see it, right? No.
Yes.
Well, we could see it. There we go. All right.
We cannot hear it.
Can't hear it at all?
No.
Then I don't know whether it's not letting me share
Mhm.
my local sound, or because I've turned the volume here up as loud as I can get it.
Okay. Well, we can email that out. We, in the meantime, can just walk through the organizer so the students
Okay.
can see what the organizer is, and I am setting it to you guys now.
All right.
And I will actually post, I think I can attach it in the chat, so I will do that. So you guys will be able to use this graphic organizer to start organizing your thoughts for the essay. All right, so for those of you who are looking in the chat, you guys can click the link for the college essay graphic organizer. That is what you can use as you type in and organize your thoughts. We are going to go through it so you guys can kind of see what it looks like and how to use it. If it comes up. Is it coming up on your computer?
I see the link, but it won't let me download, and it gave me the same error as before. Don't have an MBRT.
Oh, that's weird. I just downloaded it. Okay, well, I will share my screen, I guess. Give me 1 second, guys. Let me pull up. All right, here we go. Okay, so if you guys have opened this in this attachment that's in the chat, this is what the essay topic graphic organizer looks like. So you guys should be able to type right into these boxes. You see how I kind of just clicked in there and I can type things into the prompt boxes. So what you guys can do if you, when you go to work on your essays this afternoon, you can copy and paste right into this chat box here, whatever question you want to use. I would actually encourage you guys to go through and try it with a couple of different questions and see which one will be stronger in the end. That would be a good way to do that. And since you can edit right on this document, you can just copy and paste. It's easier, it's quicker. But if you are somebody who prefers to handwrite things, I totally am one of those people. You can print this out and write it in that way. Okay.
So when you're trying to decipher a question, one of the things you want to make sure you do is answer the question you're asked. To make sure you're doing that, you want to identify and define unfamiliar words and action words. Now, if one of the questions may ask you to describe something, you understand what describe means, look it up. Just look it up. I know that seems like an extra long step, but look it up and make sure you understand what all the action words are telling you. And then write the directions over, write what the prompt is saying in your own words. Show what you are to do so that that now makes it your own. If you've chosen this prompt or you're going to work on this prompt, now you're thinking about it not in the way that necessarily College App told you, but in the way that it makes sense to you clearly. And then brainstorm how you want to do it. If you already have an idea, so let's say you pick a prompt that has to do with an experience that you've had. If you already have an idea about your experience, now that you've deciphered the prompt and you're clear what it's asking you, now you can brainstorm, okay, so how do I fashion this experience I want to share? How do I make it unique about me? How do I make it resonate with a person who's reading it? And how can I make sure I'm fully sharing this experience in a way that made me choose to share it along with this prompt?
Awesome. So the second page is an essay. It's an organizer. You guys have probably seen something similar to this before when you're writing your essays or papers in high school. You have a section for your introduction, a couple of your points that you want to make. Typically, a lot of good papers have about 3 points to them, and then, of course, your conclusion. So this is a good organizer that you can use. Again, this is the second page of that attachment that I included in the chat. This is a good thing to use when you want to organize, to see what kind of points you have and how to organize your actual essay. That makes sense. So again, you guys are going to go back to those essay questions we talked about earlier, the Common App questions in this first box here on the first page of the essay topic decipherer. That's where you can include your prompt, and then you can debunk the question by filling out this first page and really figuring out what the question is asking. There's an area, of course, to brainstorm how you could potentially answer it. And then once you decide which essay you want to answer, you can use the second page to kind of break it down a little bit further and organize your thoughts for your essay. This is a really great resource that you guys are going to be able to use, and hopefully it makes creating your essay even more just a great way to keep all of your thoughts organized and everything. So let me hop back over to our call here. I know we had a couple questions come in. Let me look at the chat box, see if there's anything else before we do our follow-up. See. Let's see.
I posted a link in to see if you can try and download that graphic organizer if you're interested in it. Please see if that link will work for you.
Mm-hmm. And if not, Catherine, I see your question too. If it does not work, I will send you guys an email with it attached after 11 o'clock when we get off to start working on the essays. That way you guys can be able to download it to your computers and edit it that way. Okay. Let's see, any other questions? All right, so what we want you guys to do, just take a few minutes and let's debunk a question together, okay? So we are going to pull up the graphic organizer and see if we can make the taking one of the questions. We are going to answer, I believe we said we were going to answer question 6. Is that correct?
That was the one, yes, on the video. It was
On the video.
Uh-huh.
And like I said, we are really sorry that video is not working, that you guys can't hear it. We will email that as well. So you guys will be able to see the debunking of the question as we do it. So you guys can have the copy of the video at home to reference when you do debunk your question. So as we go through to debunk this question together, question number 6 says, describe a topic, idea, or concept that you find engaging that makes you lose track of time. Why does it captivate you? What or who do you turn to when you want to learn more? Okay, so that is question number 6 on the Common App essay questions. I'm going to include that question in the chat so you guys can see what we're talking about. So let's go back to that graphic organizer and debunk that. Okay. All right, I'm going to share my screen again so you guys can see what I've put in to the essay organizer. Okay, so I went ahead and added, just copy and pasted it quickly for the prompt. Like I said, we are going to go through question number 6 of the Common App questions. So what we want to do is go through and identify any unfamiliar action words. Okay, so you guys can go ahead and unmute yourself right now so you guys can chime in with what words you think we should focus on. And feel free to just call them out. Are you guys able to see my screen? Mm-hmm. You don't see it?
Yes.
No, we see it. You're good.
Oh, okay. All right. So, students, do you guys see in this question here, in question number 6, do you see any words that are unfamiliar or maybe action words that we should look at?
Well, I heard someone was about to tell us one.
Anybody? Students, you guys can turn your mics off or turn your mute off so you guys can participate in this part.
Well, I don't really see unfamiliar words, but I do see like an important word, which is captivate.
Okay, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the word that we want to define and identify. Anything else?
Well, when I did it, I also added concept and engage. They weren't unfamiliar, but I thought they should be defined.
Absolutely. So when you guys go through your question, you're going to want to identify and define it doesn't necessarily have to be the unfamiliar words, but words that really are the bulk of your question. So the next step that you might want to do is take these words. So on our organizer here, I've written captivate, concept, and engage, and look up the definition for those. Of course, if it's a word you don't know, looking at the definition will help you understand it. But even if it's a word you know, looking up the definition is going to help you think of different ways to answer that question. For the sake of time, I'm not going to look up the definition of those words now, but you guys know you can use dictionary. Dictionary.com is a fantastic resource to look those up. Then we would want to go down here and write the directions in our own words, which will help us understand how to answer this question better. Okay. Does anybody want to take a stab at writing this question in their own words? Don't be afraid to speak up.
Or if you don't want to speak up, write in the chat, write it. We can always copy and paste it into the organizer for other people to see.
I'll try.
Okay, go ahead, Courtney.
I would say describe something that interests you the most, or something that you always want to do and want to learn about.
Okay.
My main thing is interest.
Absolutely.
I forgot why does it interest you? Like what makes it so interesting?
Yeah.
Yep.
And sometimes I know that kind of seems, it might seem a little silly, especially if you really understand the question the first time. But taking that time to break it down a little bit more will help put it into your own words. So if it's words that, I mean, you might, like, you guys probably know what captivate means, but, you know, if you don't use it on a regular basis, having it in your own words will help you answer the question. And you want to answer the question where it sounds like you, not like somebody else wrote it, right? Because that's not going to help anybody learn anything about you if you're answering it in a different way. Okay. So we're going to come back to this where you guys are going to come back to it on your own. That was just to show you guys how to get started with the organizer. We're going to go through some tips and tricks now here in the last couple of minutes. Before we let you guys go and start working on your own essays. So let me switch my screen here. All right. So for tips and tricks, these are some things that we think will be really useful for you guys to remember as you guys are writing your essay, perhaps when you're coming back and editing this afternoon with us. My biggest one is write about something that's important to you. If you're passionate about it, it's going to come across in your writing. If you write about something that you do not care about that much, or something that just doesn't mean a lot to you, it's going to be obvious to the reader, and nobody wants to necessarily read something. If you're not interested in it, the admissions counselors probably aren't going to be interested in it either. Because if you're passionate about it, even if it's a topic that the admissions counselors don't know much about, or something that you might not want to, or that they might not be interested in, if you're passionate about it, they're going to be so interested reading it. It's going to be translated through your writing, which will make your essay even stronger, and it's something that will stand out. But keep in mind that you don't know who's reading it, so make sure you always tie it back to yourself and your experiences. Without pushing any opinions or viewpoints. Should you choose to write about something that could potentially be controversial, just keep that in mind. Of course, you don't want to make it about like maybe like for example, like something that has to do with politics. You can write about that. However, you don't want to write about that topic. Okay. You want to still make it relevant to you and why it's important to you. It can be mentioned in your essay, but again, the essay is to learn about you. They don't need to necessarily learn your viewpoint on policy. Okay. They want to know about you and why it makes you you. Okay.
Make sure your beginning starts strong. Feelings are strong. Action is strong. So again, I'm going to go back to tennis here for a minute, if you don't mind. But if the essay was about tennis, maybe it's that backhand that won her some major competition. That would be where you start. Or missing that backhand and the feelings of, I've gotten that one every single time. Why did I miss that one? And now I've lost the match, and now I'm number 2 instead of number 1. Feelings and actions are very strong beginnings. So consider that when you're starting your essay. You want to bring your reader in right away and go, well, where are they going with this? Have them questioning and wanting to know what else you have to say.
Absolutely. Another tip that I would share with you guys is sometimes don't start with the introduction. Get the bulk of your essay complete, and then you can go back and make a really strong introduction. It is hard to make a strong introduction without not knowing where the rest of your essay is going. So keep that in mind.
Absolutely. There is nothing wrong at all with writing the introduction last. Also, remember, you are never going to write it once. In fact, that is probably my biggest thing I tell everyone. We never write anything once. So it doesn't matter if the first thing you write is horrible. You look at this and go, this is horrible. Doesn't matter, because that's the beauty. Now it's not in your head anymore. It's on a page where you can see it, and it's a whole lot easier to fix it there than it is to fix it here before you write it down. So please just get it all out of your head, and then you can always write it over and over until it gets to be exactly what you want it to be.
Absolutely. And also remember that you don't necessarily need one essay. You can answer several essays. Now you will only submit one per college, but having more than one essay written is a really great, it's a great resource for you, because then you'll have more to choose from. If you end up writing a couple and only use one to submit when you submit your application, then you'll have other essays you may be able to use for awards or scholarships or things of that nature. Okay. This doesn't really apply today, because I know you guys are not writing in your applications because the applications are not open yet. But when you go to apply to college in the fall, for those of you who are rising seniors, make sure that you save your essay somewhere else, because when you go into Common App, it's going to allow you to type your answer or your essay right there. Okay. I would encourage you to open a Word document or Google Sheet or anything on Google, and write your essay there so it is saved somewhere, because the last thing you want is to type it into one of those text boxes and then it disappear and you have to start from scratch. Okay, so keep that in mind.
Remember also, proofread, proofread, proofread. Even after you've revised, you think you've got it all together, before you send it. Even if you've written it in someplace else, you've saved it, you think it's perfect, you copy it and paste it into the Common App, proofread it one more time before you press send. That seems like an extra step, but that never hurts. You've always missed an S, or you put your period in the wrong place, or you forgot to capitalize something. Proofread just one more time.
Mm-hmm. And for the sake of today, remember, it's a first draft. We're not expecting perfection. However, we do want you to make sure that it is perfected before you submit it. But for the sake of this afternoon, when you guys come back with us from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock, or anytime in between then, make sure that you guys are just remembering it doesn't need to be perfect. Just have something, and so we can help you with that. Okay. We do have some don'ts we want to share with you guys. Don't make it an extension of your resume. We talked about that briefly. They are learning what they need to know from your resume and from your application. So make sure this is sharing something that's new. It's a different piece of information the admissions counselors may not have seen before.
You do not have to use big, eloquent words to make yourself seem smart. In fact, I will tell you, just make yourself clear, make yourself heard. So don't use words you don't understand. Thesauruses are beautiful, but don't use a synonym and not be sure that you know what it means. Just speak in your own language, be authentic and be natural.
And don't an event that happened to your life, reflect on it. You don't need to tell us a play-by-play of what happened, but reflect on how it has changed you and how it's impacted you. We don't, especially if it's something that might be a challenge in your life, we don't need to read every detail of that challenge. Some of that could be very personal to you as well, but reflect on how that may have impacted your life and changed you for the better.
Your grandfather may have been the person who did something that changed your life, but the story is not about grandpa. You can recount what that thing was, but make sure your essay talks about truly how you feel about that, how that reflects on you, how that made you do something different, think something different, travel a different road. So don't make it to glorify grandpa, make it to show how grandpa impacted you to make you better, stronger, and more ready for this experience you're about to take.
Yeah, and that goes for any significant person in your life. Of course, I know we all have those people that have made a giant impact on our lives and really have influenced how we have become the people that we are. But they're not the ones applying to college. So we want to make sure that you guys are writing about how they impacted you, not about how, about why they're fantastic and why they're a phenomenal person. While that is interesting, it's still important to make sure you are focused on you. And again, I know that can be uncomfortable, especially if you are a person who does not like to talk about yourself. This is one of those times that it is important to do so, to make sure it is about you. It's not going to do you any favors to be extra humble in this moment. This is also a really good one. This applies for any of you who are applying to jobs as well. Do not use the wrong name of the college. If you are using the same essay for each school, if you're applying to, I don't know, Stevenson University, but you're going to use the application or the essay you wrote for Salisbury, make sure you do not use the wrong college, because that is not, you're going to show them that you did not edit the paper. But also, just don't do it. It's just going to help you out if you don't do it. So again, reflect and edit your paper and proofread.
One other thing, especially for today, if you're coming back for us to help you, please make sure you've written your prompt, the prompt you selected at the top of whatever at your essay. For one, it'll help us make sure you are answering the question you're asked. Almost any of those common essays, questions, and when you read them, you'll see what I mean, could fit with a multitude of different types of experiences and approaches. But for us to help make sure that your essay is doing what you want it to do, we would like to have the question would be helpful.
Absolutely. So before we let you go, we wanted to have one more moment of reflection. And this we need you guys to speak to. Some of you guys may have applied to other things that you might have needed to use a personal statement or an essay. If that is the case, do you guys have any tips that you can share with your peers that you maybe found helpful, or something that they might find helpful as you guys go to work on your essays here in a couple of minutes? Any tips and tricks to share? No.
I'm sorry. For me, you cut in and out, Morgan. What's up?
Any tips and trips?
There it goes again.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, there it is.
Okay. We are looking for some tips and tricks to share with one another about maybe if they've had to write a personal statement for something else, maybe a scholarship, maybe a program they applied to. Or maybe, Sue, do you have any last tips for them as they go to write their essays in the next couple of minutes?
Yeah, my biggest thing, my two biggest things as a mass comm major is know your audience. I think that's very, very key. And be yourself. If you don't think you use that word or that sentence on the everyday, don't use it. The college is really interested in you and your potential. So don't worry if you're not where you think you're supposed to be. That's not what they're looking for. They just want to see your potential.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. So before we let you go, we want to see, does anybody have any questions that we can answer before you guys go get started? As a reminder, for those of you who might have hopped on the call late, we are going to let you guys work on your essays between now and about 1 o'clock. From 1 o'clock until 3 o'clock, if you come back to this link, we will be here waiting for you to help you edit your essays. We're going to read through them, give you guys some tips and comments on what we think of this first draft of your essay. we are here for you. I will share our email addresses where you can email us a copy of it so we're able to pull it up and share it and go through the essay together, especially if you do not have either of our email addresses. But does anybody have any questions that they want answered before we get started, or before you get started?
Daisy said, can you use a quote from people that have impacted you and help you stand out? I'd say yeah.
Absolutely. That may be a, depending on what the quote is and depending on how that's relevant to your essay and the question, quotes are always a good way to start, and strong ways and captivating ways to start any type of writing.
So if we already wrote an essay, can we share it with you now and then have feedback to start writing like second draft and then send that in the other meeting?
Sure. Yeah, if you guys have already have an essay written that you want to have shared, go ahead and you can email it to us. Give us a couple of minutes. We have to get a couple of things organized to help you guys get ready for this afternoon. But if you want us to look over an essay that is already written, that is fine. I would encourage you to go ahead and answer one of the Common App questions, just because there is a good chance that any school you apply to might be using one of those questions. So while you're waiting, feel free to go ahead and get started on one of those. Okay.
Will you send the emails on the chat or wait, your email? Okay.
Yeah, the emails will come through on the chat in just a second. So that will be there in a moment. Any other questions?
Oh, there she is.
I might need one more tip because I'm so used to writing essays, and every time my teachers would be like, don't include yourself or don't make it about yourself. So like, I still feel a little weird trying to make it about me. So like, how can I get over that?
That's a difficult one. I don't like to do it, but I don't know whether this will help you. I would like to know about you. I'd like to know about you, Courtney. I've never met you. I don't know you. So if you were going to tell me about yourself, now I'd like for you to do that in the essay. I mean, I'm think about it as these questions are offering you that permission. They're saying, hey, you know what? I need you to tell me about you. I don't have, a year or so to walk the halls with you and talk and eat lunch with you and understand you like that. I'm asking you now to take a minute or take an essay and tell me about you, those things that I would like to know so that we can be friends. And essentially, that's kind of really making it as basic, but that's the bottom line. That's why they're asking these questions, because they want to know about you in a shortcut way, because they can't get to know you on an everyday one-on-one basis. It's permission to talk about yourself. No one is going to tell you, oh no, you can't put you in it. It is truly permission to talk about yourself.
Okay.
Yes, and it won't make you think about like when you apply to a job. You don't want to talk about somebody that you've worked with before. You want to talk about yourself. It's kind of the same idea here, that you want to make sure that they understand who you are as a person. Just like and this is a good way to think about it too. If you think about what you would tell them if you were there in person, you probably wouldn't talk about somebody else. You'd want to talk about yourself. So just keep that in mind too. I know it's kind of a hurdle to get across, especially when you aren't used to writing about yourself. But this is that one opportunity to make sure that you can really communicate with the admissions counselors who you are as a person. Okay. That was a good question though.
Thank you.
All right. Does anybody have any other questions? All right. So, make sure we are putting the emails in the chat now, so please feel free to email us your essays, and we will be back on around 1 o'clock at this link. So feel free to pop back on then with your essay. I will go ahead and send you guys an email now to include the graphic organizer for those of you who were not able to download it from the chat. I will send you guys the video link, so you guys are welcome to watch that since it was not able to stream through our recording here. And then, of course, I will include a list of the Common App questions because you need to have the questions to know what you're writing about. So that will be coming across in the next 5 minutes, so be sure to check your email. Otherwise, we are here for you. So check back in around 1 o'clock and we will be ready to go. All right. All right. Thank you guys for tuning in. I hope this was helpful for you, and we are looking forward to helping you guys edit your essays this afternoon.
Yep. Bye.